That's best. I didn't like to hear your insights. Nice. We're excited to get it back.
Okay, we're gonna start now.
There's a lot of inspiration.
Welcome. I'm Darcy Hall. I'm the president of the Faith Plus Works Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Orange, which is where you are. Our church was founded in 1890 and is an anchor institution in the city of Orange. We are also the home of the community campus that also holds the Hub, which is a community-based organization that does gardening, gathering, and social justice, community-based social justice. We are also the home of the University of Orange, where we believe that everybody has something to teach and everybody has something to learn. So welcome. Thank you for coming to this sacred space. We appreciate that you have come here on what is turning out to be a beautiful day. So I just want people to know that in Unitarian Universalism, we have a beloved ritual, which is called the flower communion or flower celebration or flower ceremony, call it whatever you want. So in the spirit of that, after Ellen is done, we're going to have a little opportunity to do some planting. And you can keep your seeds or you can leave them and donate them to us or whatever you wish. And just a little note that the Flower Communion was founded in 1922 by a man named Norbert Capek. And that is not a name that is well known to the general public, but he is a very towering figure in Unitarian history. And he was a member of this church. So we're very proud of that because he was an immigrant, he was a refugee, and he came here and he was welcomed. And he then went on to Czechoslovakia, where he founded a church that had 3,000 people at one point. He founded the largest Unitarian church in the world, which, so even though we're small, we like to think that we can do big things. So thank you for being here. And I'm now going to ask Mindy to light the chalice. This is a little thing. And we're lighting the chalice in honor and recognition of our past, our present, and our future. Thank you, Mindy. And we have a surprise. Wayne is going to do something with us. Are you ready?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. The guy I was talking about earlier, Norbert Capek, he wrote songs. And so Wayne's going to sing.
Well, this is one of his many, I believe, hymns, many of which were written along with his wife, Maya, who became a leader in Unitarian Universalist religious education. Okay, and this one is Mother Spirit, Father Spirit.
Yeah. So
hymn number 8. Mother Spirit, Father Spirit, where are you? In the sky song, in the forest, hear your cry. What to give you, what to call you, what am I? Many drops are in the ocean wide and deep. Sunshine ripples all the waters to the sky. What to give you, what to call you, who am I? I'm empty. Time flies from me. What is I? Dreams eternal, fears infernal haunt my mind. What to give you, what to call you, oh my God.
Thank you, Wayne. Okay, so now I want to introduce our special guest, Ellen Kahaner. I just want to do a quick bio. Ellen is a very modest person, so you may not know that she teaches writing to healthcare professionals for the 1199 Union. She teaches conversational ESL at the East Orange Public Library. She's a retired elementary school reading specialist, and she's written 6 books, fiction and nonfiction for children and young adults, and has published articles on a wide range of subjects. She has run a poetry series at the West End Bar and later at Riverside Church while an MFA student at Columbia. She's managing editor of a poetry journal and started her own poetry magazine. And so you can see she's very dedicated to poetry and to gardening. So she's going to tell us how City Girl became a flower child. Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you, Ellen. Well, I want to wish everybody a happy National Poetry Month of April, and thank you all for being here, friends and friends on Zoom, and the congregation for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to explore the metaphor of planting a seed as the first step to practicing observation, patience, powerlessness, resilience, and creativity. Jeremy gave out a packet of the poems. Some are written by me and some are selections from eminent poets. Eminent poets. And also there's a link in the Zoom chat for those of you online to a PDF of the poems. And I also want to reiterate that after the talk, there'll be some refreshments and some seeds for us to plant. So I'd like to read from the first chapter of How to Read a Poem and Fall in Love with Poetry, which is a classic bestseller by Edward Hirsch. To quote, "The reader of poetry is a kind of pilgrim setting forth. The reader is what Wallace Stevens calls the scholar of one candle. Reading poetry is an adventure in renewal, a creative act, a perpetual beginning, a rebirth of wonder. Beginning is not only a kind of action," Edward Said writes in Beginnings, which is a key work in literary theory. "It is also a frame of mind, a kind of work, an attitude, a consciousness. I love the frame of mind, the playful work and working playfulness, the form of consciousness, the dreamy attentiveness that comes with the reading of poetry." And I feel the same way about writing poetry and gardening, that it's playful work and working playfulness, and that there's a dreamy attentiveness involved in it. In high school, I was captured by that dreamy attentiveness, being a dreamy teenager, and also the wonder and curiosity of poetry, which continued through college and graduate school. And I thought I'd put it aside for many years, but I was speaking with a former teaching colleague the other day, who I taught with in the 90s, and she reminded me that poetry has always been a part of my curriculum. And as a college teacher, as an elementary school reading specialist, as an adult ed instructor, as a reading coach to teachers, I've seen and practiced the impact of reading and writing poetry and the gift of being a scholar of one candle, as well as being part of a literacy community. And with gardening, also a personal journey. The community input and output has been a great joy. I love connecting with it being playful work and also work and playfulness. In Park Slope, I had a windowsill garden. Then in Sunnyside Gardens, I sort of sneakily overtook the front garden and planted bulbs. I had a terrace garden in Jackson Heights. And then when we moved to South Orange, I gradually transformed the front lawn to a garden. Then on to Minneapolis, where I planted sunflowers, and then to a balcony in Long Beach, where I did planting in pots, and then a fig tree in a pot in Little Neck. And I moved the pot to Orange, where it resides in my garage and is soon going to emerge and be planted in our garden in the backyard, along with azaleas and hydrangeas and rhododendrons and rose bushes and lilacs that I planted, and all the flowers. So, but how did those two things come together, gardening and poetry? Well, they came together for me in Joan Larkin's workshop at this Baird Center in South Orange, where I started writing poems about my garden and reading poems by renowned poets. So the selection you have in front of you is poems that I've written and also poems that I've read. The first one is Peonies by Danusha Lamaris. And I have a personal connection to peonies because they were the flowers that I bought and arranged for my wedding many years ago. And the poet herself commented that anyone who has kept cut peonies knows them to be active and alive and changing, brief as they are. Here I aim to speak to their mystery and to ours. Excuse me. Along with all this gardening, I'm having a peonies. What are these strangers sitting on the table in their ruffled collars? They open, close, open, emit the scent of cracked pepper and honey, magenta punctuation marks at which to pause, pink commas against the green scrub. I would trade 10 goats for one whiff of peonies opening in a vase. An ancient proverb says, you should not let a woodpecker see you plucking a peony, lest it peck out your eyes. We are afraid of happiness. Peonies are to loneliness what wind is to the trees. Are they animal, mineral, vegetable? They move as the sun moves. When I brought them home, they were dark. Now a whisper, balletic tool. They are not diminished, even as they turn to smoke.
Nice.
Would anybody like to share a line or a phrase or a word that activated your imagination?
Cracked pepper and honey.
And which one?
Cracked pepper and honey.
We are letting tools.
So
We are afraid.
you're in happiness, yeah. Yeah, right. Right, she's really capturing details through the senses. And also, we were rereading this poem and we're really kind of stuck on the analogy. Peonies are to loneliness what wind is to the trees. First, we had to identify, we said, is that a metaphor, is that a simile? And then it's like SATs. Anybody have any thoughts about that? Peonies are to loneliness what wind is to the trees.
Wind is like an embrace, trees and leaves are the voluntary, connection. Leaves the world and
Yeah, I like that. That's interesting. I don't know, Jeremy, what did you make of that? 1 minute, that's good.
I'm not sure. If it's gonna be-
I think too, maybe the wind can move the trees and maybe peonies can move your loneliness, maybe away.
I thought the choice of loneliness was interesting. You know, when you think of wind and trees, they're physical things that happen. You know, the wind blows and trees move. But the loneliness of peonies is something that is, you know, it's not easily defined. Or, you know, everyone has a different sense of loneliness.
Sure. And, you know, wind sort of disrupts and disturbs the trees, and peonies sort of disrupt loneliness, disturb loneliness. So one thing I've really been reminded of in sort of being more involved with poetry is the power of rereading and rereading and rereading, and how every time I reread a poem, I get more out of it, or more confused, or more questions, or and it's really a way of engaging deeply in reading. It's by rereading, as we know. So the next poem is it's an ode, which is a song of praise, and it's an ode to hellebores. Just to refer back that in the poem by Danusia Lemaris, she mentioned ancient proverb in connection to peonies, and doing a little research about hellebores, I also found there was an ancient connection, which I refer to in the poem. And another thing is that in the first stanza, there's a play on the phrase, first thought, best thought. I'm saying first flower, best flower. First thought, best thought is a principle that Allen Ginsberg applied to writing, that capturing immediate motion or image on the page before the mind edits it is the most powerful thing to do. And I have hellebores in my garden, they're blooming right now. So this is Ode to a Hellebore. First flower, best flower, early bloomer, hellebore. Dancing strands dotted with pollen, in reddish purple cup, nodding downward. Nectar protected from old man winter. Demon destroyer, enemy poisoner, yet an ancient healer. Why King Proteus's daughters, who believed they were cows, yes, cows, driven to madness by Dionysus, were saved by hellebore. Right now, in my backyard, a hellebore, dual nature intact, is raising hell. Okay. So next we have a poem by, of course, my pages are now in the wrong order, so just give me 1 sec. So this is by Theodore Roethke, who I was fortunate enough to read in high school. And he was won every award that a poet can get, from the Pulitzer to the National Book Award. His father and uncle had greenhouses, and his sensitivity to nature is just beautifully captured in this poem. So I'd like to share it with you now. It's called Root Cellar. Nothing would sleep in that cellar, dank as a ditch. Bulbs broke out of boxes, hunting for chinks in the dark. Shoots dangled and drooped, lolling obscenely from mildewed crates. Hung down long yellow evil necks like tropical snakes. And what a congress of stinks. Roots ripe as old bait. Pulpy stems, rank, silo-rich, leaf mold, manure, lime, piled against slippery planks. Nothing would give up life. Even the dirt kept breathing a small breath. So I wonder if we could kind of do a line by reading, like if we start with, do you want to start, just read the first line and then the second go around? And give it all you got. Root cellar.
You might give it all you got. Just. Okay,
Yeah.
coach.
Yeah.
Come on, Doug.
You can do it, Doug.
Nothing would sweep in that cellar, dank as a ditch.
Bulbs broke out of boxes, hunting for chinks in the dark.
Shoots dangled indoors,
Lolling obscenely from mildewed crates.
Hung down long, yellow, evil necks like tropical snakes.
And what a congruous of stinks.
roots ripe as old fate.
Pulpy stems, rank, silo-rich.
Leaf mold, manure, lime, piled against slippery flanks.
Nothing would give up life. Even the dirt kept breathing its small breath.
That small, that last line, you can almost like hear that line too. I mean, you can almost hear the breathing, the dirt, and that small breath. So, you know, that saying, like, that's a hard act to follow. Well, that's a hard act to follow. Anyway, I'm gonna read a poem called Privacy. And that last line really resonated for me, and kind of affected how I thought the poem I'm going to read. Privacy. Arriving in tight, upright green bundles, September 12th, 2025, 7:28 a.m., 6 feet tall, 22 pounds, 4 ounces each. Congratulations. Cut the cord and watch the branches shake their shiny, lance-shaped leaves free, ready to battle nosy neighbors and define borders. The dutiful watering at the base of newly planted bushes begins. The friendly online reminders that these are easy, easy, easy. Just a little fertilizer, dappled sun or none. And yet, green turns to tan, then brown. I use manicure scissors and delicately snip the crispy edged leaves, hundreds, thousands of them, into a giant orange bucket. My neighbors now say, does she have Munchausen syndrome? And over time, man, that ship has sunk. I'm desperate to save these failing bushes. December, January are particularly cruel because evergreen they are not. Just as I am not. But wait, I'm not going to cry uncle. I want to be seen as someone who doesn't give up, give in. Why am I planting a privacy screen? Why have I fallen for this capitalist notion? Share the garden, share the beauty of nature with its own rules, death, failure, growth, hope. This morning, the robins remind me it's time. The old shovel with its loose handle circles the dirt around each one. Easy, easy, easy. Dried out skeletons with tangled root balls. The Facebook post a few hours later says, dig up the laurels we no longer want, and they're yours. It's the exact number of those that passed in my backyard. I have to say, they're still not doing right. They're not easy, as it turns out. So I was talking to Sylvia yesterday about the talk, and she reminded me that poetry and gardening, while a singular activity is, that image of the scholar with one candle, it also creates community, and whether it's in person or online, I've certainly found that in both of those activities. So in December, remember how cold it was, horrible. all of a sudden, the most beautiful purple iris emerged in my garden in front of my house. I mean, it was completely formed, and it just was shocking in the landscape at that time. And so I looked up, what is this? Like, what's this? And I found out that there's such a thing as a reblooming iris. And not only that, there is a reblooming iris society. Which reminded me of something that a journalism professor said when she was teaching us, how to do research. She said, look for the groups. She said, there's a group for everything. And so this is a poem I wrote. I am joining the Reblooming Iris Society. I am joining the Reblooming Iris Society, and then I will sign on to the Azalea Association. Certainly the Phlox Federation is a good fit, and the Hydrangea Hub has room for one more. If not, the Sisterhood of the Sunflower will accept me because they accept everyone. My inbox floods with recommendations for the best and worst fertilizers, prunings, do's and don'ts, and what about powdery mildew? There may be some disagreement, just like in real life. And then in the morning, I wake up as always before dawn, out on the lawn, a pale brown doe munches on the garden as I nurse a coffee, and all my problems are solved. Okay, so now, okay, so this is a poem that requires many readings. And I would ask if you could look on with a neighbor, just take a minute to just read it to yourself. So Charles Stern, also a poet who won the awards and master teacher, and including from 2009, he was the until he died, he was the distinguished poet in residence and a faculty member at Drew University. Actually, Jeremy, would you give us a read?
The Cemetery of Orange Trees in Crete by Gerald Stern. In Crete, the old orange trees were cut back till they are stumps, with little leaves coming out again from the butchered arms. They're painted white and stand there in long, straight rows, like the white gravestones at Gettysburg and Manassas. I first came across them on my bus ride to Amalos as we began our climb through the empty mountains, thinking of the beauty and exhaustion that lay ahead. They are mementos of my journey south, the renewal of my youth, green leaves growing out of my neck, my shoulders flowering again with small blossoms. My body painted white, my hands joining the other hands on the hill, my white heart remembering the violence and sorrow It gave us our life again.
So this, for me, is a poem that summons more questions than it answers, and it raises the dead while it celebrates rebirth. And my garden now is like a mixture of death and rebirth. So the Jacob's ladder and the bee balm I planted last year, gone forever. But the balloon flower, which is supposedly an annual, is back. Right? It's very surprising. So anybody just have any thoughts before we move on? Is anything resonating for you here?
I love the image of the green leaves growing out of the neck.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
I think it feels like rebirth and hope, and it's a strange idea of us being like plants in some way. And we also, I guess there's this divide between the plant and the animal world, but sometimes there are a lot of similarities. We're alive. We're striving to stay alive.
And poetry from patriots.
To me, there's like a violence in both the death and the rebirth. That the beauty, the exhaustion, the violence, the sorrow, like those are, dramatic words. And the fact that these orange trees are cut back literally to stumps and then grow again. It's like, very hard pruning. And I know the first time I read this that I felt, it wasn't a series of gentle images. And that sort of made me rethink my garden a little bit.
It's funny, it's also sometimes like we need to hard prune ourselves, right?
Yes.
And by doing that, sometimes we really grow, right? Sabina, anything?
I find it really resonates sort of as a war poem to me. And it's so visual, you feel like you are brought to these actual places where these actual things are, these kinds of trees that are painted white and pruned back, and then also onto those battlefields and cemeteries. And so I find it's visually, for me, it's very much, and like I feel like he's talking about, I don't know whether it's true, but like as if he were being a soldier. So for me, it's very much feels like a war poem.
Right. And that last line, the violence and sorrow that gave us our life again.
Yeah.
It's another one of those like sort of mystery lines that can sort of have a lot of different understandings. I have become a member of this insane fig growers online, and I've also become a sort of word of mouth gardener. Like of just do this. Oh, look, hey, how's that go? And there's so much advice, and there's so many mistakes. And this traveling fig tree that we have, so it's been in our garage, and the amount of time I've spent like debating whether it's ready to be planted into the ground. I mean, it's like it's become an obsession, because last year I brought it out too soon because it had some little figs and little leaves on it, and there was a cold spell like we're going to get tonight, and everything died. And so it was a big setback because the tree came back, but too late to actually, the figs never ripened because by the time it came back and grew, it was like into November. This is a poem called Chicago Hardy, which is the species of fig trees that's supposed to do very well in our zone, 7A zone. Get a Chicago hardy fig tree, my sister-in-law's hairdresser Alberto recommends. Cutting through the 700 varieties, brown turkey to Little Miss Figgy. And I like the association with hardy Chicago, though so far it has produced only hard green marbles and hand-sized, fingers outstretched leaves, a legacy of hiding the private parts of Greek statues. Okay. So, I am going to just skip dahlias and zinnias, and I'm gonna jump to instructions on not giving up. And any of these poems care to visit again or visit, we're not able to, but I'm gonna move on to instructions on not giving up. So Ada Limon is was the poet laureate consultant in poetry for the United States from 2022 to 2025. And I love the title and I love the poem, and I feel like it could be applied to any creative act, especially now. Instructions on not giving up. More than the fuchsia funnels breaking out of the crabapple tree, more than the neighbor's almost obscene display of cherry limbs, blossoms to the slate sky of spring rain. It's the greening of the trees that really gets to me. When all the shock of white and taffy, the world's baubles and trinkets, leave the pavement strewn confetti of aftermath, the leaves come, patient, plodding, with green skin growing over whatever winter did to us, a return to the strange idea of continuous living despite the mess of us, the hurt, the empty. Fine then, I'll take it, the tree seems to say, a new slick leaf unfurling like a fist to an open palm. I'll take it all. So I feel like we could all write instructions on not giving up. So before I finish up, I wanted to just do one more thing. So Sylvia noticed that I didn't put my age range on my poems. But I found on the cover of this book that I too will be celebrating 75 years this summer. And I don't know if you're familiar with the characters.
Yeah.
But it's really it's written like a poem. It's only 100 words. And it's written by Ruth Krauss. And the pictures in it are by Crockett Johnson, which you may have heard his name. He had created the book Harold and the Purple Crayon. Both of these are kind of classics of children's literature. And I know that I used this book when I was teaching. And I don't remember if it was a book that was read to me as a little kid. I hope so. So yeah. Okay. So the carrot seed, love the color. A little boy planted a carrot seed. His mother said, "I'm afraid it won't come up." His father said, "I'm afraid it won't come up." Guess what his big brother said?
I'm afraid it won't come up.
Every day, the little boy pulled up the weeds around the seed and sprinkled the ground with water. But nothing came up. oh no, he's thinking, my parents, right? And because nothing came up. And everyone kept saying, it wouldn't come up. But he still pulled up the weeds around it every day and sprinkled the ground with water. And then one day, parrot came up. Just as the little boy knew it would. So, I think, I started by saying how, planting a seed is the first step to practicing observation and patience, resilience, creativity. So we're actually going to get to do that right now.
Yes, so maybe we'll bring the formal part of the program to an end. Mindy, would you like to blow up the challenge? Are you done? I didn't cut you off, did I? I just want to bring this formal part to an end, so, yeah.
That was very good, thank you.
There you go. Thank you, Mindy. So, just a few closing words and then we can plant some seeds inspired by Ellen. Thank you so much. That was great. May all our hours together be blessed as this one has been by open-hearted sharing, learning from one another, and making beautiful harmonies together. And may we greet everyone we encounter with the same acceptance and grateful kinship until we meet again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's something